Parents abandoned me and now demand I support my divorced sister as it's a duty of her rich big brother. So, I'm the middle child between an older brother who was 6 years my senior and a younger sister who's 10 years my junior. My parents are now in their late 60s and early 70s, and looking back, my position in the family has always been a bit shaky. From a young age, I got the vibe from my mom that my arrival was somewhat of a surprise. No, not the good kind of surprise. More like the oops kind. She never outright said she regretted having me, but her hints weren't exactly subtle. She'd drop comments here and there about how I was unplanned and how my coming into the world made things a bit tougher for them. Imagine hearing that as a kid. It's not exactly a self-esteem booster, right? You start to wonder if maybe life would be easier for everyone if you weren't around. Then there was my older brother. This guy was my hero. He was big, strong, and just radiated confidence. He stood up for me against bullies, and sometimes those bullies were even our own parents, which is as messed up as it sounds. He knew how to handle them and shield me from their often harsh criticism. He was also incredibly handsome and popular, excelling in sports throughout high school and college. He had this charm about him that drew people in, and some even said he looked like a very young Marlon Brando. To me, he was the definition of what a man should be, everything that our dad, unfortunately, was not. Our dad could be pretty tough, petty and manipulative at times, which really distorted my view of what fatherhood was supposed to be like. My brother, though, he showed me kindness and taught me how to stand up for myself. He was protective, but also made sure I knew how to protect myself, which was invaluable growing up the way we did. As an adult looking back, I can see that my parents were pretty flawed. As a kid, though, you just feel like you're the problem. My brother wasn't perfect. Academically, he was a straight C student, and musically, let's just say he wasn't going to be the next Mozart. Despite this, my parents threw resources at him, hoping he'd somehow turn into a scholar-athlete-musician super combo. They enrolled him in piano and violin classes, which he hated, but they were determined. When I showed a genuine interest and aptitude for the piano, my brother was the first to suggest that maybe they should let me take the lessons instead. But of course, that suggestion fell on deaf ears. My musical education had to be self-funded when I became an adult, and now I play part-time at a local bar. It's a passion that I've carved out for myself, despite my rocky start. And birthdays? Oh boy, my birthdays were always an afterthought compared to how they celebrated his. My brother noticed this disparity and would actually use his own money to treat me on my birthdays, making sure I felt special, at least for a day. That meant the world to me. When my little sister was born, I was about in the 5th grade, and it was clear that I was more of an inconvenience than ever. I was often roped into babysitting duties, which further sidelined me in the family dynamics. They babied her and continued to put my brother on a pedestal, while I struggled to find my place. It felt like I was living the Jan Brady middle child stereotype, constantly trying to get noticed and validated. My parents didn't hesitate to pull out all the stops for my brother's college education, covering whatever his athletic scholarship didn't. Meanwhile, I felt like I had to excel in everything just to earn a fraction of that attention and support. I became an overachiever, always striving for the best grades and accolades, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'd see me the way they saw him. Long story short, my brother was jogging for exercise one night, and a drunk driver hit and killed him at a crosswalk. I was devastated, of course, as were my parents. My parents took out a lot of their frustration and grief on me, never ceasing to insinuate and remind me that I could never replace my brother, that I was inferior to my brother. Why are they stuck with me? This isn't the adult bitter me recounting things in my favor. This is me, after years of therapy, looking back calmly and rationally. My parents instilled in me the idea that they wished that if it had to be one of us who died, that it could have been me and not my brother. I was also moderately overweight and short as a teen, and this made me feel even worse. It didn't help that my dad always compared me unfavorably to my brother in terms of height and athletic ability. Your brother was 6'3" when he was your age. Gee, thanks for this helpful advice, Dad. I'll have a word with my legs and tell them to stop being so short because, as you know, my genes are my fault and not yours. When it came my time to go to college, nothing from my parents, no offer to pay, no offer to help, no praise for my perfect marks, no praise for the fact that I had gotten numerous awards in high school for science and engineering. They never attended any of my ceremonies and only attended my graduation. And even then, only begrudgingly, it seemed. Their only comment was the passive-aggressive observation that I was just a coach, salutatorian, and not the valedictorian. I had never, even once in my entire academic career, gotten less than an A outstanding exemplary for an academic or elective mark, from kindergarten to 12th grade. I got perfect marks in college too, so I didn't need their help to pay my way through school. And by this time, I was fully aware that they didn't like having me around. I was offered several full-ride scholarships both in and out of state. When I said I wanted to take a scholarship across the country, my parents just shrugged. No comments like, "Oh, stay near us. We want you near home. We'll miss you." So I thought, effort and Bluetown. I worked at a Rite Aid drugstore to supplement my scholarships. I majored in aerospace and minored in physics. All through college, I made the effort to go through the motions of visiting my parents on holidays. But I could tell I was just as meaningless to them as I always was. By the time I started graduate school, also full-ride scholarship, I just said au revoir to all of them and stopped calling. I could see how much I mattered to them once again, because they never once tried to call me after that. Or at least until recently. I've been working in aerospace for 17 years now. I make well over $200,000 a year. I own my own house, 2 luxury vehicles, an RV, and a motorcycle. And I've been married for nearly 20 years to a beautiful woman, 40, who chose me before I was even close to having these things, and who has her own career in literature. We have a 5-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter from my own experience with my parents. I know exactly what not to do with my kids. My sister got married at 19 to a guy I privately thought looked like a loser and a user. My parents spared no expense for her lavish wedding. At the time, I wasn't yet in my current strong financial position, but I was still making a great salary. I attended the wedding, and everyone was just as cold to me as I remember them. No one congratulated me on the fact that I was now fully grown. I hit my growth spurt at 20 and over 6 feet tall and now very slender and fit. Oh well, I gave my sister $5,000 as a present. I also had a chance to play the piano at the wedding because my sister asked me to, after a family friend remarked that I had mentioned taking private lessons. Everyone was enthusiastic about my playing and backslapping me. Not a peep from my parents, of course. My sister has a 6-year-old daughter. Sister divorced her husband 2 years ago because, surprise, surprise, he was a loser and a user and completely useless. He won't give her child support because he has no money. So my sister moved back home with my parents. She wants to go back to school. She had gotten a degree in modern art that my dad paid for, but she never got any work with it. And now she doesn't think she can land a well-paying job with it unless she adds to it or gets a different degree. And now my parents suddenly remembered my phone number. They didn't say so, but from what I gather, they blew through all their money, indulging her in their own tastes. They regularly go on lavish vacations, so now they think it's my duty as her rich big brother to step in and pay. My mom says that it would be classy for me to offer to pay since my sister could really use the money and I didn't spend a lot of time with her when she was young because you moved out so early. Okay, she also says that now that she and my dad are getting old, it's a shame that I hardly visit. And they're confused as to why I'm so arrogant and not seeing them more often. Total gaslighting. I notice my dad has nothing to say about all this because he knows what really happened to this day. I'd love to smash a fist like a freight train right into his face. He told me that my brother was always ashamed of me, soon after my brother died. And this was after my brother told me to my face a few weeks earlier that he would always be there for me and that he loved me and that no one is ever going to hurt you if I'm standing. And in a way, my brother's been with me my whole life. I am inspired by him when I want to succeed. My dad is a jerk. The thing is, I know my parents are full of crap, but I don't want my niece to suffer. She's the same age group as my own kids, and I hate the idea of her going without. I never had a bad relationship with my sister, but she takes after my parents and is something of a self-involved narcissist. I am financially in a position to help pay, but I dislike the way they've all treated me since I was a boy. And my own kids will be in college in a blink of an eye. Also, who knows? Maybe I could get fired tomorrow and this whole lifestyle will come crashing down. Under what terms should I offer money? Should I offer any at all? If not, how can I help in other ways? Now for the top comments before the update. It's a shame for your sister and her daughter, but their situation is a result of your sister's bad life choices. It's not your job to bail them out of these problems. You have to set up a boundary here because it won't stop with this money, I suspect. I imagine that it will be your sister's college. Then she needs money for her own home. Then your parents will start to suffer as they get older and they'll need something. And of course, you are a terrible son if you refuse to pay for it, and so on and so on. You have 2 children of your own to look after, and while you've built an enviable life for yourself, you are not exactly a millionaire. Take care of your own wife and children first. Update 1. It all started last Sunday. I was kicking back, planning to catch up on some Netflix, when my phone rang. Seeing it was my parents, I felt that familiar twist in my stomach. Our calls are usually loaded with more subtext than a mystery novel, and today was no exception. I answered, trying to keep my tone light. "Hey, what's up?" Right off the bat, My mom went into her usual guilt-tripping mode. You know, it's been ages since you last visited. We're not getting any younger, she started off, laying the groundwork for whatever was coming next. I kept it cool. Yeah, work's been crazy busy. You know how it is. Without missing a beat, she dove right into the real reason for the call. So, we were thinking, it's about time you thought about helping your sister with some money for her school. I blinked, totally caught off guard. What money? I asked, trying to keep the surprise out of my voice. Well, she's looking to go back to school, and since you've done so well for yourself, it'd be really classy of you to offer, she explained, as if this was a totally normal request. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Hold on. Why am I suddenly responsible for financing her education? Because you're her big brother, and you weren't around much when she was growing up. It's the least you could do, she continued, her voice taking on that familiar tone of expectation. My frustration started to boil over. Mom, let's get one thing straight. My being away was because I needed to make something of myself, on my own, because I sure as heck didn't get the help from you guys that she did. There was a pause, and then my dad's voice came on the line, heavy and annoyed. Look, we're not here to rehash the past. We're talking about your sister needing help. Needing help? Or you needing me to help because you've mismanaged your priorities and finances? I shot back, my patience wearing thin. The argument heated up from there. My mom threw in everything from how I was always too ambitious for my own good to how I abandoned the family by moving away. My dad wasn't much better, tossing in digs about how I'd always been too concerned with money. Being financially responsible isn't a crime, I countered, feeling like I was talking to a wall. And using my success as an excuse to guilt me into opening my wallet isn't going to work this time. The call ended pretty much as you'd expect, with no resolution and a lot of angry hang-ups. After I put down the phone, I was left shaking, a cocktail of anger and old resentment swirling inside. It was the same old story, just a different day. I tried to calm down by taking a walk, letting the cool air clear my head. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this was just another manipulation tactic, another way for them to pull me back into old dynamics where I was the perpetual giver and they the takers. Now I'm stuck figuring out what to do next. On one hand, I genuinely don't want my niece to suffer or miss out on opportunities because of her parents' or grandparents' issues. She's just a kid and doesn't deserve that. But on the other hand, I'm tired of being seen as an ATM, only valued for what I can give financially. Should I just give the money and keep the peace? Set some strict boundaries about it? Or refuse outright and try to help in other ways that don't involve just handing over cash? Maybe there's a way to support my niece directly, bypassing my parents and sister altogether. It's a tough spot to be in, and I'm really torn about the best way to handle it. If anyone out there has been through something similar or has any pearls of wisdom, I'm all ears. Sometimes just talking it out or hearing someone else's take can make a huge difference. Here's hoping I can find a solution that doesn't leave me feeling like I've compromised my own values or let down someone who needs help. Update 2. So my sister called me, and honestly, I was expecting another round of the Guilt Trip Olympics, but what I got instead threw me for a loop. I picked up the phone, bracing myself, and it was my sister sounding different, like more chill and genuine than usual. Hey, I heard about the talk you had with Mom and Dad. I just wanted to say, if you're feeling weird about giving the money, you really don't have to. I don't want to push you into anything. I was kind of stunned. This wasn't the conversation I expected to have. Really? Thanks for saying that. It's a lot to process, you know? Yeah, I get it, she said, and I could almost picture her nodding on the other end. I should have talked to you directly before letting Mom and Dad handle it. Sorry for the drama they stirred up. We talked more, and she shared how she felt stuck and thought maybe reaching out for financial help was the only way. But now, she was seeing things a bit differently, thanks to our chat. It was probably the most honest and open conversation we'd had in ages. Thanks for being understanding. It means a lot, I told her, feeling a weird mix of relief and disbelief. Of course, and hey, maybe we can figure out something else. Something that doesn't make you uncomfortable, she suggested. We ended the call on a good note, something I hadn't expected but definitely appreciated. I hung up feeling lighter, but also kind of confused about what to do next. Later that night, after the kids were tucked in and the house was quiet, I sat down with my wife to unpack the whole thing. We settled into our comfy couch with some tea, the kind of setup that says it's time for a serious chat. So, my sister called, I started. She said I don't have to give the money if I'm not comfortable with it. That's good, right? My wife said, sipping her tea thoughtfully. It sounds like she's really trying to respect where you're coming from. Yeah, it's good. It's just, Now I'm wondering if there's a way to help that feels right, you know? I was fiddling with my cup, thinking out loud. My wife set her cup down and gave me that look that says she's about to drop some wisdom. If you decide to help, just make sure it's on your terms. You could make sure the money is used for what it's meant for, like putting it directly toward her school expenses or setting it up as a loan instead of just giving it away. That's a really good point, I nodded, feeling grateful for her level-headedness. I don't want to just open up my checkbook without some boundaries. That wouldn't help anyone in the long run. We talked for a while, exploring different ideas on how I could offer support without feeling like I was just giving into pressure. My wife really helped me see that there were ways to be supportive that didn't involve just handing over cash with no strings attached. Maybe setting up a trust for her education might work, I suggested, warming up to the idea. That way, the money is locked in for its intended purpose, and there's no way it can be misused or redirected somewhere else. That sounds like a solid plan, my wife agreed, smiling. You'd be helping in a way that's constructive and keeps your integrity intact. That conversation with my wife was exactly what I needed. It helped me organize my thoughts and come up with a plan that felt right. Talking things through with someone who understands you really can make all the difference. So now, I'm putting together some ideas on how to set up this educational trust, or something similar, and I plan to talk it over with my sister. I want to make sure that if I do this, it's done right, benefiting her without causing more family drama. If any of you have been in a similar spot or have advice on handling family and money, especially when it comes to trusts and educational funds, I'd love to hear it. Managing these family dynamics is tricky, but I'm hoping we're moving toward a resolution that feels right for everyone. Here's to navigating the choppy waters of family relationships and coming out okay on the other side. Update 3. Okay, so I thought I had finally found a good solution by setting up a trust fund for my sister's education, right? Well, I was pretty proud of myself for figuring out a way to help her without just throwing cash at the situation. I set everything up, talked to a financial advisor, and made sure it was all airtight. My sister was thrilled when I told her about it, and honestly, it felt great to help her out like this. But, as usual with family stuff, the peace didn't last long. I figured I should give my parents a heads up about the trust fund, hoping they'd see the sense in making sure the money was used right. So I picked up the phone, dialed their number, and braced myself for their reaction. The call started off okay. Hey Mom, Dad, just wanted to let you know I've set up a trust fund for Sis's schooling, I said, trying to keep my tone light and positive. There was a beat of silence, and then my dad's voice came through, sounding confused and a bit annoyed. A trust fund? What for? Why didn't you just give the money to us? I explained. It's a way to make sure the money goes directly to her school expenses. This way everything is transparent, and we know it's being used for her education. You could almost hear the temperature rise on the other side of the phone. My mom chimed in, her voice tight with frustration. We're her parents. We should be handling that money. You should have given it to us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Were they serious? Handling the money? No, this way is better because it ensures the money is used only for her education, nothing else. My dad got really heated then. You're overstepping your bounds, thinking you can control everything with your money. We know what's best for her. The argument spiraled from there. Overstepping? I'm trying to do something good here. This isn't about control, it's about responsibility. I shot back, my voice rising despite trying to keep calm. My mom accused me of not trusting them and thinking I'm better than them now that I have money. You think because you have a little money now you can dictate how we do things? That's not your place, she said bitterly. Trust is earned, I responded firmly. And this isn't about me showing off. It's about making sure her education is funded properly without any risk of the money going elsewhere. The conversation ended with them pretty much fuming, and me feeling like a mix between a hero and a villain. I hung up, more frustrated than ever, but also sure I'd done the right thing. Later that evening, I went over everything with my wife. We sat in the quiet of our living room, just digesting the day. I told her about the call, about how they reacted, and how it left me feeling. You did the right thing, she reassured me, her voice calm and steady. Setting up that trust was the smart move. It protects your sister and ensures the money is used the way you intended. Your parents, they're reacting out of pride and maybe a bit of envy. We talked a lot about what this meant for us going forward, how to deal with the potential fallout, how to keep communication open with my sister, and how to handle any further conflicts with my parents. Stick to your decision, my wife advised, squeezing my hand. You've set this up with the best intentions. Don't let their reaction make you doubt yourself. So here I am, stuck in the middle of family drama yet again, but this time with the confidence that I'm doing something beneficial. My parents might be upset, but hopefully they'll see the benefits in the long run. And if not, I'll just have to stand firm and know I did the right thing for my sister. Navigating family and money is super tricky, almost like trying to defuse a bomb without setting it off. If anyone out there has gone through similar stuff or has any advice on dealing with family money issues, I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Sharing these experiences can sometimes help us see things from another angle and feel a bit less alone in the chaos. Update 4. So after setting up the trust fund for my sister's education and having a really positive chat with her, I thought maybe we were on a path to some peace. But as it turns out, the family drama was just gearing up for another round. I called my sister directly to make sure she was all set and understood how the trust fund worked. She was super thankful and really excited about it, which felt awesome. We had a great conversation, just laughing and planning her future. It was nice, like really nice, to connect with her like this without any drama. But then, a couple of days later, my phone rang, and I saw it was my parents. My stomach did that weird flip it does when I know I'm about to dive into something not so fun. I took a deep breath and answered, "Hey, what's up?" Right off the bat, my dad was all business and a bit on the attack. "We heard you set up that trust fund for your sister and talked to her about it," he started. "Yeah, I wanted to make sure she knew how it worked and that she was okay with everything," I said, trying to keep things calm. "Well," my mom cut in, her tone full of that we're not happy vibe. "We've been thinking, if you can afford to do that, you should really do more. Like buying her a house." I paused, totally thrown off. Buy her a house? That's a huge step. I mean, the trust is one thing, but buying a house is on a whole different level. My dad didn't miss a beat. "If you care about your sister, you'll make sure she's completely secure. A house would do that." The conversation got pretty heated. "Look, I care about her a lot, which is why I set up the trust. But buying a house? That's not just a simple gift or support. That's a major investment, and honestly, it's not something I'm prepared to just jump into," I tried to explain. My mom jumped back in. "You're making all this money and you can't help your own sister more generously? We're your family. You should want to do this." I felt my frustration boiling up. "It's not about not wanting to help. It's about what's reasonable and sensible. I'm not just going to buy houses on a whim. The trust fund was a big commitment already." "We're just asking you to do what's right as her brother," my dad argued, his voice getting louder. "Doing what's right and doing whatever you ask are two different things," I shot back. "I've done something huge for her education. I'm not adding a house to that right now. It's not feasible." The call ended pretty badly, with them saying I was being selfish and me feeling like I was talking to a brick wall. They were disappointed, and I was mad and stressed out. Later, I talked the whole thing over with my wife. We sat in our kitchen, late at night, just trying to unwind, but also figure this out. They just don't see boundaries. They think because I have some money, I can solve all problems with it, I told her, running my hands through my hair. "You've done enough. More than enough," my wife said, her voice firm. "Buying a house isn't just a simple thing, it's a huge responsibility and not something you just do because someone demands it." We talked about how to handle my parents moving forward, how to communicate that I was happy to help my sister, but within limits that made sense. Maybe just reinforce the purpose of the trust, and that you're supporting her in a massive way with that, my wife suggested. "Yeah," I agreed, feeling a bit better. "I need to be clear that I'm not an ATM, and I can't be guilted into making huge financial decisions like this." So, that's the situation now. I'm gearing up for more discussions, or more likely, arguments with my parents. I'm learning a lot about setting boundaries and sticking to them, even when it's super tough. If anyone has any advice on dealing with family who think your wallet is their safety net, I'd really appreciate hearing it. Sometimes just knowing others have navigated these waters can be super helpful. Update 5. So, my sister officially started college, and she's over the moon. It's awesome to see her so pumped about her classes and making new friends. Every time we chat, she's got a ton of stories about her professors, her coursework, and all the new experiences. Setting up that trust fund was definitely a good move. It's like I can almost hear her smiling through the phone when she talks about her day. It makes me feel like I did something really right, you know? But while that part of my life is going great, the family drama part, not so much. My parents are still super ticked off about the whole trust fund thing and the fact that I didn't buy my sister a house like they wanted. And instead of cooling off, they decided to turn up the heat. They've been bad-mouthing me to pretty much anyone in the family who will listen. According to them, I'm the miserly son hoarding his cash while his family struggles, which couldn't be further from the truth. When I first heard about their little smear campaign, I was ticked off. I mean, it's one thing to be mad at me, but spreading lies? That's a whole new level of low. It's like, come on, why drag everyone else into our mess? So I decided I had to clear things up. I started reaching out to some of the family members who'd heard these stories. I wanted to set the record straight and explain my side of things. One of the first calls I made was to my Aunt Linda, who's basically the family's unofficial news broadcaster. She had the scoop, all right, but it was all sorts of twisted. Hey, Aunt Linda, I heard through the grapevine that there's some concern over how I'm handling things with Sis. I wanted to talk to you directly and explain what's really going on, I started, trying to keep my voice calm even though I was super annoyed. Oh, hello, dear. Yes, your mother mentioned that you've been, well, a bit tight-fisted, she said, which is a nice way of saying she thought I was being stingy. I took a deep breath, ready to dive into the whole saga. Actually, Aunt Linda, I set up a trust fund for my sister's education. It covers all her tuition, books, and any school-related expenses. It's completely taken care of so she can focus on studying without worrying about money. There was a pause on the other end, and I could tell she was processing this new info. A trust fund? Well, I didn't know about that. Your mom just said you refused to help with a house. Yeah, the house thing came up, but I felt ensuring her education was fully funded was more important. Buying a house is huge, and with the trust already set up, it seemed excessive and not the best move right now, I explained further, hoping she'd see the sense in it. Aunt Linda seemed to soften a bit. That does sound generous and sensible. Education is a big deal, and it sounds like you've done a lot. We talked a bit more, and by the end of the call, she seemed to understand my perspective a lot better. She even promised to let others know the real story, which was a relief. Despite clearing up some of the confusion, this whole thing made me realize visiting my parents anytime soon was off the table. They've shown they're not above bending the truth to try and guilt me into doing what they want, and I don't need that kind of drama. Later, I sat down with my wife to talk about all this. We were in our living room, just winding down for the day, and I told her everything. You need to protect your peace, she said, always knowing just what to say. If that means keeping some distance for now, then that's what you need to do. So that's the plan. I'm keeping my distance, sticking to my guns, and focusing on the positive changes, like my sister loving college. It's tough navigating family drama, especially when it feels like you're doing it alone. But I'm learning that sometimes you just have to stand firm and do what you believe is right, even if not everyone gets it. If anyone out there has dealt with similar family money issues, or has any tips on how to handle family members who turn every conversation into a guilt trip, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. It's comforting to know others have walked this path and come out the other side.